In 1999, Megadeth took a risk and released an album that was intended for an alternative rock audience, while at the same time straying far away from their thrash metal roots. Most fans consider this to be their worst album, but I'm here to come to this album's defense. I've been a fan of this band for over 35 years, and I've listened to all their albums many times, but I'll be honest with you all, I go back to this one often, so in this video, I'm going to try to defend this album to the best of my ability. So let's get into it. So the album was released on August 31st, 1999, celebrating 25 years. It was released on Capitol Records, and there were a few lineup changes. This is the debut album by the drummer, Jimmy DeGrasso, and the final album with Marty Friedman. So this album was aimed at an alternative rock radio audience. It was completely different from the Megadeth sound. Some people didn't like it. They wanted more of a thrash metal album, but by the 90s, Megadeth were kind of abandoning thrash little by little. It started with Countdown to Extinction, where they kind of like streamlined their sounds a little bit. And they followed this up with Euthanasia, which was more of a hard rock metal sound. And then the Cryptic Writings, which was the album right before this, which also still had that more like a streamline, more of a heavy metal and less of a thrash sound. But they took it even further with Risk. They actually took a risk. And that was suggested by Lars Ulrich on Metallica. They said, why don't you take a risk? And they actually did. And they called it Risk. So let's talk about some of the songs. The opening song is Insomnia. And I actually like the song. I think it's kind of cheesy on the one hand because it's about, not being able to sleep. And in the lyrics, Dave Mustaine is going, oh, I can't fall asleep. I mean, that's cheesy, but they do some interesting things. I like the use of like the psychedelic undertones, some of like the Middle Eastern vibes on it. Still some distorted guitar in it, nice bass guitar sound. Some elements of Megadeth, but it's just like a different type of song. But I thought it was like a pretty decent song. It's actually one of my favorites. But I know it's a cheesy song. You hear Dave Mustaine saying, "Oh, I can't sleep," and I know you're thinking, "Oh, why don't you take a pill or something?" But I've had insomnia, and it's pretty bad. Especially when you're laying in your bed at night and you can't fall asleep and if you have to go to work the next day and it's a Monday morning and you know that you got to go to work Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and then you're going to be up all night and you're at the office and there's like nowhere for you to take a nap or anything. So insomnia is a pretty bad thing when you have it. So that's why I can actually relate to this song. So now back to the video. Probably my favorite song is the second song called Prince of Darkness. And this is like a typical song. It's about like the devil, but it's more in an alternative rock, maybe even a nu metal direction, which was what was popular at that time. And it's a very dark song. I really like it. I like the slow building riffs. I like the bass guitar intro, and I like the spoken intro and the distorted backing vocals. So that's probably one of my favorite songs. They have a song called Enter the Arena, and this goes into Crush 'Em. Now, I don't know why they divided it into two songs. It kind of sounds like the same song. They probably should have just made it one song, but it might have been because Crush 'Em was one of the singles. It was used for the Universal Soldier, the Return movie. And it's a decent song. I think it was used in like wrestling as well. So it kind of has like that element to it. But it's a catchy song. It's an alternative rock song. So I thought it was pretty good. Now the next song is a ballad. It's called Breadline. And this is about a homeless person and they're waiting on the bread line. And again, kind of a weird concept, but it's an alternative rock power ballad. It's nothing like anything Megadeth have ever done. They've done ballads. They've done In My Darkest Hour. They've done Tout Le Monde. They've done ballads, but this was very commercial sounding, very alternative. So I think it's a decent song, but it's not a Megadeth song. So I think I like it. It's kind of catchy, but I think they kind of strayed very far with this song. But I still like it. I think if you go into this album thinking it's not a Megadeth album, it's something different, it's an alternative rock album, I think that you can appreciate some of the songwriting. So that's why I think Breadline is one of the songs where they strayed, but it's still pretty good. I think the main problem with Breadline is that it came out 10 years too late. I think if it had come out at around like 1987, 1989, around that time, it might have been a radio hit. It sounds too much like those hair metal ballads of the late 80s. So that's my thoughts on that song. Then the song The Doctor's Calling, it's about going insane. Another one I like this one because it has that like haunting tone, kind of like an Alice Cooper type of song. And I like the guitar sound on it. I like the psychedelic vibes it gives off. And the singing is pretty catchy. So it's another song that's straight from the formula, but it's not really that bad. I think it's kind of a catchy song. Then after this, there's a song called I'll Be There. And this was very different. It kind of has some like new wave elements, some goth rock elements, but it's still a catchy song. And then there's the song Wanderlust, which is another one, like an alternative rock song about the Old West, gunslinging. And this one I like. It has the clean Western guitar riffs, the bass interlude, some pretty good drumming. Dave Mustaine was a fan of Clint Eastwood, so I think for that reason he wrote this song. It's very different, but I think it's one of those songs that I can get into. Then there's a song called Ecstasy. It's more of like an indie rock or alternative rock record. And this one has more like the clean guitars, the audible bass. And this one it's a pretty decent song. Again, it's not Megadeth. It strays from their sound, but I think they did a pretty good job in doing this. And now there's 3 more songs in the album. There's 7 about the 7 Deadly Sins. This is just a hard rock song. It's more of a hard rock. You got the hard rock guitar riffs, the bass guitar, almost like a punk rock type of sound. Really cool drum breakdowns. And there's some keyboards on this as well. You don't really hear keyboards much in Megadeth, but you can hear it here. Now the lyrical content, 7 Deadly Sins, I know it's been overdone a lot, but it's a pretty decent song. I think it's just fun, it's kind of catchy, and I actually kind of like it. And I think like the last 2 songs are very underrated and very good actually. Time the Beginning and Time the End. So these are 2-part songs. So the first part is the acoustic, almost like a symphonic type of song with the clean singing, and it kind of brings the idea of mortality. And the second song is called Time the End, which is part 2, and this is a heavier song, and this is actually bringing in some like doom metal. It sounds more like classic Black Sabbath, but also a little bit like grunge. And this is like they're bringing in distorted guitars, there's clean singing, and it's a little cheesy. But I think these last 2 songs really make the album well. So I think as a whole, the album has a really good start. I like Insomnia and Prince of Darkness, and the last 2 songs, Time, the Beginning, and the End. And the rest of the album is pretty decent. Like, it's listenable. I do go back to it very often. Now, when it came out, it got like mixed reviews. A lot of critics compared it to Metallica's Load and Reload. And I can hear that, but they're completely different albums. Metallica's Load and Reload were more like maybe like a sludgy Alice in Chains kind of sound. And Megadeth's Risk was more alternative rock, more like radio friendly. More of a pop record, if I can even call it that. So I think they can be compared a little bit to Load and Reload, but they're still a little different. But a lot of critics also complained about the band losing their edge. And that's true, but they definitely came back right after this. The next few albums were more of a return to form. So in conclusion, I think this is not a Megadeth album. If you go into it expecting Megadeth, you're not going to like it. But if you take it for what it is, an alternative rock record, it came out in 1999. It sounded like what was out in 1999. There's like a little bit of that new metal. It still has a little bit of that Megadeth into it. Has some really good guitar playing. Marty Friedman's a great guitarist, so the guitar playing is on point. The production sounds very good. So it's a good alternative rock album, in my opinion. So I think it deserves a little bit of praise. Now, ranking the Megadeth albums, it probably still goes towards the bottom. I've ranked Megadeth albums before, and I'd probably rank it higher than most people would. I think most people put this at the way bottom. I don't really put it all the way at the bottom. I think there were a few other albums that I like less than this. But I don't know. Let me know. What do you think of Risk? Do you love it? Do you hate it? You probably hate it. So let me know in the comments. Check out my ranking of Megadeth. You'll see where I ranked it. You'll probably disagree with me. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe. If you have not already, I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.